So I want to start with doing some bro care. I want to use Big Dave's success tips and do a temperature check on sanity. I have some sanity tips that I've been working on in this trying time, and so far I've kept a pretty cool head, and I think it's largely because I'm regressing back into liking roguelikes.
We made an entire fucking fully produced audio drama episode.
I fully understand. Oh man, do I understand. I understand so completely why they're awful time sinks. I know intimately why they're bad and they should be illegal.
And why how every single one of them that you start anew makes you think like, oh, this one has really cracked the nut of the roguelike design. This solves all the problems and offers a fulfilling experience unlike all those other ones. This one does something different. And then you play 10 hours of it and you realize, no, it don't.
So I'm playing Hades right now, and I think those things currently. I've not gotten burned yet. I think it has cracked the nut. I'm not saying it's true. I'm just saying my current feelings are that this is the one that solved the equation. Talk to me in a week when the dopamine is fully dried up. But I'm in that horrible stage where I finish a run and I stop playing, and then like 10 minutes go by, and I think I could play Hades again.
Oh, that's a rough place to be in. Okay, so this is a sanity tip. That seems like the opposite to me. This is keeping you sane?
Yeah, because then if I'm playing a roguelike, I'm not looking at Twitter, though.
Oh, yo, that's a good point.
Yeah, and I still have huge moments of weaknesses where I spend too much time posting, but still, like, what about you? How have you fortified your brain in this time?
Good question, because the answer is I have not. I'm flailing, buddy. I mean, the real answer is that I try to focus on the fact that there's nothing else that I could be doing. Like, the fact that I'm stuck inside all day and constantly washing my hands and being hyper alert about everything that's going on around me. Before, when I did that, which was just my sort of baseline, before when I did that, I always had this feeling in the back of my head that's like, there's something I could be doing more. I could be out there making the world a better place more than I am. I could be doing this. It was sort of like FOMO for
being fulfilled.
For being fulfilled and sort of like world justice. Now I'm just like, I've done it. I've hit the maximum. Like, I am the best citizen in the entire universe. That said, oh fuck, my brain really sucks ass. I gotta say that it's such a boon that we both had remote podcasting setups for Sickos before, and that we already sort of had a recording cadence that we could just continue, because every other creative project that I have now, I just stopped, and when I try to think about starting it again, instead of starting it again, what I do is I cry.
You open up Cookie Clicker.
Fuck. Oh man, I unlocked the golden switch in that. It's a switch that uses an hour of your cookies per second to turn on, and when you turn it on, it doubles your CPS, but you turns off golden cookies, so it's perfect for idling. Every weekend I just turn it on and set it and forget it until I start work again the next week.
Man, I'll start again, but that's fucking funny. So I'm doing the thing where I'm only going out to get groceries once a week. I'm being extra vigilant and good. And when I do go out once a week, I feel like a dog that finally gets to go outside after his owner has been at work all day. I just get like sensory overload in the produce section. Just the fact that I see other people that isn't my reflection or my girlfriend is like very overstimulating. I dropped off a microphone to Alex, our future guest, and at that point, that was like the first time I got in my car in a while, and he was the first person I had seen in quite some time. So when I dropped off that snowball mic and he was like waving at me from his balcony, Alex was the most beautiful man that ever existed. Like, he had an aura about him, even though for sure he was just playing Monster Hunter like a second ago. But just seeing another human being, I was like, oh, this man is God on earth.
Yeah, the aura you saw was the power of his stand Orinoco Flow, which used its healing waters to bring you back to sanity. I went to the grocery store once since this has gone down. We've been trying to not leave since our upstairs neighbor is an ICU doctor, and he's been like, hey, I'm definitely being exposed to this constantly, so really be careful, you guys. So we've been trying to get delivery, but we couldn't for 1 week just because there wasn't any slots, so I had to go to the store, and I had my mask on. And buddy, I tell you what happened is that the inside of that mask got real sweaty and damp. And then also, on top of that, I bought too many groceries because I was like, I got to make this last. And I don't have a fucking car, so I was carrying all of this on my person, and it's not that far from the Aldi to my house, but when you're carrying like your full body weight in bags on your arms, it becomes very long. And the only way that I was able to maintain my sanity and get all the way home in one piece was to constantly refer to myself as Tom Porter Bridges and think about all the likes that I would receive for completing the delivery if this were Death Stranding. And buddy, that fucking helped a lot.
Yeah, people say video games are pointless, they serve no purpose, they are correct. However, you wouldn't have gone through that ordeal without the fact that you've wasted tons of your human life doing fucking video games.
It's true. And as much as I've talked about Cookie Clicker being sort of my lifeline to sanity that keeps me from the darkness, Joe, I have bad news. There comes a point in Cookie Clicker where you sort of hit diminishing returns. You know, every new item is more and more expensive, and it follows an exponential curve, but the cookies per second increases don't follow an exponential curve. There's going to come a time when there's simply no further you can go. I've been stuck in the duodecillions for weeks now.
This is when you're on a drug binge and you are coming to terms with the fact that your stash is going to run out.
It's true, and I'm getting inured to it. It's no longer giving me the same high anymore. Like, there's a very strange and unique feeling among Cookie Clicker players where, like, when you start out, you have to bust your ass so fucking hard to get 1 million cookies. Not even 1 million cookies per second, 1 million cookies, period. Right now, I see that I'm generating 1.2 undecillion cookies per second, and I'm just like, what's the point?
I can't, like, visualize the number of digits that is.
There is an option where you can turn the numbers from text to like the full thing with all the zeros spelled out. And I like to do it sometimes because it just becomes the most overwhelming shit in the entire universe. You've never seen a number that long.
But you also know it's not enough.
Oh, it fucking isn't. It fucking is not. Oh my god. Hello, everybody, and welcome to Anime Sickos, the podcast for geniuses, where we talk about anime, gaming, posting, and jobs, the 4 pillars of modern misery.
They're so bad.
Miserable than
They're
ever.
so bad.
I am Tom, an anime sicko.
I am Joe, an anime sicko. And today, I want us to return to Cog Talk, something we haven't done in a while.
Cog Talk. Cog Talk.
If you listen to the show, you know we've done lots of segments on Cog Talk about like the indignity of working in an office, how all jobs are bad. As someone who is at the moment employed as a cog remotely in pandemic times, I love the boot now. I love licking it. It allows me to live.
I apologize for any time in the past that I ever insinuated that being a good cog hog and being an obedient piggy was ever not the most overwhelming good and a symbol of truly divine fortune.
Yeah, anytime I said spreadsheets were dumb, I was doing big irony. I really love them. They're so important to me.
Like, we were gonna, at some point, like, it was in the plans that we would do a cog talk where we sort of self-examined and said, like, hey, we complain a lot about our jobs, but we're the lucky ones. The real cogs are the people who have to do stuff like food service and retail and logistics. They're the real cogs. That, like, we don't even have to do that anymore because that's just, like, what's happening. If you look out the window, you just know that that's true now. In fact, to have a cog job is, like, it's not something that we can complain about. It's like there's a big poison that got put out in the air that everyone has breathed in. And the only antidote is a cog job, which is a big golden chalice that you get to sip at every single day. And you need to take the antidote every day. And if they fire you, the poison gets you.
Yeah, it's real bad. It's just fucking grim to both continue to work in a job that feels aggressively pointless, but also know that everyone who doesn't have this similar setup, which is, let's be honest, most of the fucking country, is just struggling in a real bad way. And it's something I try not to think about because if I do it too much, I get stuck in the throes of despair where I play roguelikes even more.
And also you can't do anything about it. Like, what are we supposed to do? I can't leave the house. I need to get on the computer and spend 8 hours doing useless cog shit running on the treadmill, because now more than ever, it's like the only thing that can guarantee I'll be safe.
Yep. The only thing you can do at this point, the only real source of justice, is to make fun of bad op-ed writers online. I think that's the only thing you can really do. We talked about this before. The temperature of online is getting real steamy. Everyone is sort of getting real unhinged and horny. It's only going to continue to get worse.
Everyone is pacing their cell back and forth, and each wall of the cell has deeper and deeper impressions where they've pounded and pounded the wall with their fists, leaving big streaks of blood, and they're just biting their lip harder and harder in a fury, and they're just cutting into their flesh, and then they get on the computer.
Yeah, you get on the computer, and I saw in my timeline a link to someone's sexy page, which I think was called niceasslawyer.com. I don't know who that person is, but there was just a full ass on my timeline.
I thought it was going to be an assistant lawyer who was very kind to people.
No, it was a fully nude woman with an ass begging me to spend valuable coin on more pictures.
I think that that's class traitorism, because a lawyer has a cog job that's going to get them through this time. I want, like, nice-ass retail associate.
Nice-ass janitor, yes, for sure. But two awful things happened online that I think speak to the current cog situation, and where it's your duty to fucking tell these people that they're bad little piggies. One, the LA Times posted this op-ed, which was about how you need to start dressing up to work from home because you need to start taking this shit seriously.
Yeah, you're getting paid to be a professional, and a professional dresses up. A professional does not sit in their jammies and do work in loungewear.
Right. This was written by Adam Tishorn. His last name is a nightmare. The problem with this is that, obviously, it's like one of the most sort of frankly cucked things you can write, but also this guy looks like a clown. Like his profile picture on Twitter, he has a straw hat, he has a shirt that looks like a Candy Striper uniform.
I said this on Twitter, he looks like nothing else so much as the fake Luffy from the Return to Sabaody arc, where the Straw Hats have been missing for 2 years, and a bunch of idiot dumbasses have just dressed up as them so that they can steal their clout and have everyone be like, oh my god, it's the Straw Hats, do what they say. There's a guy who dresses up as fake Luffy with a shitty straw hat who's a big chinless idiot. He looks exactly like this fucking guy. And I know we're making fun of appearances, and that's like very low and base, but this is because this motherfucker wrote an op-ed all about how you should judge people for what they wear more.
Yes. Can I just read this fucking awful paragraph where
yes.
He gets so close to realizing that he has a terrible worldview and that there's a better way, but he just can't quite break through. He can't rub the two brain cells together.
Gimme.
Maybe what bothers me most about the enthusiastic embrace of grubbing about the house clothes, particularly in instances where we're brought face to face with our bosses through the miracle of video teleconferencing, is that each time the camera goes live, another tiny crack appears in the carefully constructed facade of our day-to-day reality, we're given another inadvertent glimpse behind the curtain and see that the great powerful Oz is but an old man pulling levers and making noises. This extends not just to our own bosses, but also to those who pull society's greater levers of power and influence.
Buddy, what? What? This is insane to me because he literally says, he says facade. He uses the Wizard of Oz metaphor. He talks about how, he's not saying that the cracks are wrong.
He thinks the theme of the Wizard of Oz is that when you see the guy behind the curtain, that's very stressful and it makes it harder to do your job.
Yeah. We've all agreed that there's a wizard. If you see the man behind the curtain, what you are doing is just ruining it for everyone. Because we have all bought into this wizard shit. If the wizard turns out to be fake, it means we've been doing all this for nothing. And I'm not just a dumb baby bitch hog who ate all the shit that was served to him like an idiot for no reason.
Yeah, in the same article, he also makes a point to complain that Andrew Yang didn't wear a tie at the debate, which is the smoothest brain thing.
Jesus fucking... this is a guy who just loves rules.
Yes.
The fact that there is a rule in place makes him so fucking horny. We have made fun of and sort of bemoaned the fact that a lot of cog jobs and office culture is just your boss making you stand on a pee pad and making sure you don't pee. And then you get off of it and they're like, that hog was very obedient. It did not pee until the appropriate time. Very good. And that makes me sad. This motherfucker is howling at all points of his life. Even when he's in his civilian mode, he's like, hey everybody, look at my pee pad, it's dry.
Yeah.
And it's no one cares about your dry pee pad. It's not a real thing. You even said it was a facade.
It's also funny coming from a guy whose job is to write op-eds, which is the least essential type of labor on the planet. If you were tasked with moving grains of sand to different parts of the beach, that is infinitely more productive than just being an op-ed writer, because you might accidentally stop erosion that way.
Yeah, you might help a little baby turtle get to the sea because you scared away a seagull while you were walking from one side of the beach to the other.
Yep. It's real fucking bad. And the thing that's so funny to me is the replies to his link to the page are just what feels like a million people on planet Earth replying with an image of his own head.
Just his avatar that he picked.
Which, as far as owns go, it's one of the most devastating things you can do online, which is someone says something, and rather than say you're stupid or refute their argument, you simply respond with a picture of themselves with no comment. One of the most brutal things you can do.
It's amazing. And again, it feels low to just attack someone based on their appearance. But this motherfucker literally said, if you wear the wrong clothes, I don't like you. So, okay. But it's like he wrote an op-ed about how anyone who gets shot with a gun is a fucking dumbass. And the way he decided to publish that op-ed was to go to a gun club, stand in the middle of the firing range and just yell it. Kill me. He opened the door. What do you want from us?
Yeah. And I just can't imagine being so into your own thoughts and your belief that your opinions are worth reading that you couldn't see that coming.
It's incredible.
Or you did, and there's a weird, I need to get yelled at to get hard situation.
It's funny that you should bring that up because I think that segues perfectly into the second example of a dumb fucking op-ed from the premier rage fetishist on the internet, David Brooks, a man who can only get hard from one of two scenarios. One, everyone on the internet yelling at him and telling him he's a fucking dumbass who doesn't deserve his job. And two, marrying a child.
God. David Brooks rules because if you reply to anything he posts with that picture of him and his millennial wife and you say, I love daddy-daughter dances, he blocks your ass. He blocks your ass. So in this unprecedented time of anxiety, fear, economic catastrophe,
just the cherry on top for an absolute lifetime of precarity, misery, and pain that an entire generation has been forced to endure.
He has launched a new salvo in his big beat of yelling about millennials, which I always take to mean that he's having like marital problems. Like anytime he talks about like millennial culture, he's absolutely upset because his wife's friends are doing memes he doesn't get.
Or his wife's friends aren't wearing like tuxedos when they do a Zoom call with him, and he's like, I thought you were professionals.
Yeah, the gist of his article is that the reason millennials are ill-equipped to deal with the current pandemic, which as a premise is not, I don't think, correct. I don't think anyone is equipped, age or whatever, is that we were coddled too much. This is the participation trophy shit.
Yeah, this is the title of the article is, I believe, "The Age of Coddling is Over." What the huh? What, huh? Also, if I were to say what cohort, age-wise, is least equipped to deal with the pandemic due to their being coddled, like, that's the boomers 100%, right? Like, it's the boomers. It's the ones who are, it's the red, wet, thick ham people in Ohio who are screaming so that they can die by shopping at Lowe's.
Yes. Yeah, it's all the people who... I just saw a picture of people doing a in-car protest outside of a Pottery Barn demanding it open.
Like, what even do you get there? Like, that's another thing. Like, I don't think a millennial has ever gone to Pottery Barn. Because, like, one, when do we have money that we don't spend on, like, food, debt, rent, or video games? Never.
I thought Pottery Barn was, like, just a store in a PS2 game you can't go into.
Yes. Yeah, like in Vice City, there's, like, a Pottery Barn that's just, like, it's just a texture. There's no door on it.
So David Brooks, in his article, is an example of people who are adequately tough. He points to how med school, and by extension residency, is the one doing it right because it's very hard and everyone drops out and it grinds people and chews people up. The thing that is amazing about this is that his argument that one of the downsides to being coddled is that then you need Xanax and suicide rates are higher because you're unable to adequately deal with the stress of life, which... not fucking true. But the thing is, residency suicide rates are high. They're very high. And that they're high when there isn't a global pandemic. They're high when things are normal.
It's a system that is like requiring you to spend more time working than the human body is like physically capable of doing without incurring major harm. Like, there are so many irrefutable, like, shut the book, we're done studies that, like, if you don't get X amount of sleep every day, you're just fucked, and you're not even like at half capacity. You're just like free falling. And doctors, the profession that should most respect the science about the human body, is like, yeah, fuck that. Yeah, I work 36 hours in a row because we hate you.
Doctors should actually have to sleep 18 hours a day, and they only get out of bed to do their rounds, and then they immediately have to go back to bed.
It's true. And they should get massages and little treaties all the time as a reward. That's the fucking thing that kills me about, like, oh, if you're coddled too much, you can't handle trauma, is that, like, trauma's bad. Like, am I crazy to think that, like, trauma is bad and that no one should suffer any trauma that they don't have to, and that when trauma comes along, it's not good that you already are at low HP? Like,
yeah.
Am I crazy?
I get the impression that he needs to know that people are being chewed up and spit out because it just makes him hard. Like, I don't know how to take this any other way. It's all the people who tell you, like, life isn't easy and all this stuff. That's always really stupid advice because no one thinks it is. It's like reminding people that, you're going to die one day. It's like, yeah, I know. I know.
It's not good. Like, what do you want me to do? Like, you want me to be happy about that? I think a lot of it is, it's the same impulse that's behind the fucking LA Weekly thing. And just the reason that even now, when it's so fucking clear to, like, your average person that, like, oh, the way society's set up, like, doesn't work.
Yeah. Yep.
And when there's a problem that like is real, like you can't deny that there's a fucking pandemic. I mean, you can, but you shouldn't. When there's a problem that's real, like everything breaks and people are just fucked irrevocably. Like it's clear that like, okay, well that's bad and we gotta fix it. And then even in this scenario, the people in power are like, but what we gotta do more than anything is make sure that the hogs are not pissing on their pee pads. You gotta make sure that they are bone dry. We gotta make sure that they are really struggling to hold it in. We have to see them every day. They cannot be wearing sweatpants because that is sort of a wearable pee pad. That way they can piss in the sweatpants and the pee pad will stay dry. That is not acceptable. They need to know that we're suffering even when we're not suffering in the real way where you're homeless and die because you fucking can't pay rent.
Like, his job is to just post shit that makes people angry. And it works. Like, I'm pissed, to be clear. He did his job. So, congrats on him. But everything about that article, and honestly about the LA Times thing, which is that how you act in response to this unimaginable pandemic and challenge is completely a personal thing. There are no extenuating there are no extenuating circumstances that could possibly make your life better. It's all about gumption and and stick-to-itiveness.
Yes. And if you feel bad and if you suffer, it's because you're weak. That's the fucking thing that I think the best way to sum up these both, and the reason they're so infuriating, is that if you were to sum up both of these articles in one sentence, it would be, I think people should be suffering more.
Yeah, that's it. Yeah.
And it's like, are you in the same world as me? Like, even if there wasn't just this blanket of suffering that we were all forced to get covered by, even if things were a utopia, don't think that, you dummy.
Yeah. I guess that's also the thing that concerns me about the horniness to get everyone working immediately, which is the end goal there is to shift the blame of this widespread pandemic and illness from being a societal problem to a case where if you get sick, you made a personal choice that was bad. Mm-hmm. And that's really what's unnerving me about this, because like there's no shortage of articles about like, yeah, grandma needs to die so the Dow Jones can go up again. But I take these two articles as very much in the same vein of that, even if it's not as explicit.
It's a sickness in the minds of those who are above us, where I think what it is, I just came to this realization. This wasn't planned in advance. I think what it is that they're jealous that something else is grinding people under its boot. They want to be the only things that can make us suffer, and now some fucking virus is making us suffer. The virus isn't even rich!
Yeah, the virus is not a job creator. It didn't go to the right schools.
It's not on any boards.
It's just a bunch of genetic material. That's just bullshit.
We're the anime sickos, and we're here to say anime is bad in a war crime way.
So I've now gotten multiple DMs of people being like, due to your fucking dumb as shit podcast, I am inclined to do a deep dive into anime. And first of all, huge error, right?
Yeah, don't do that. Don't send us those messages. That hurts us. That's like giving us the evil eye. We are cursed now. It is bad to know that we have caused harm to people. People who are free of the Eastern cartoons now wish to sear their eyes with them, and to know that we did it hurts.
Yeah, like when someone in a band gets a message that's like, hey, your music changed my life. Telling us that you want to start watching anime now is like telling a band member, like, I really wanted to let you know that I listened to your music and then I cut off my arms.
Fuck. Yeah, I mean, yeah, nothing to add. That is right on.
Yes. So you might be thinking, well, there's a ton of time now to start watching anime.
Yeah, what you should do instead is like take up needlepoint or something, or maybe watch, like, I don't know, some Shakespeare plays. Please don't watch anime.
Old Price is Right. Old Price is Right, like from the 90s.
If you want something a little more spicy, you can watch old Match Game. There's plenty of innuendo. Oh, the big ass lawyer is gonna like that. You're gonna DM her some nice Match Game lines, and really, you're gonna get the most spicy content. Don't watch anime. Just like, don't do it. Don't be tempted. Don't do it.
However, if you are going to do it, think of what we're about to do for this segment as sort of like a clean needle exchange program. We're going to help you do harm mitigation.
Yes, this is harm reduction techniques. This is us recognizing that the thing that we want most of all, for no one to watch anime, is impossible. So prohibition is actually counterintuitive to our goals. Instead, we're just going to make sure that when people hurt themselves, they hurt themselves in a non-fatal way.
Right. And anyone who tells you to take this time to watch 900 episodes of something like fucking One Piece, that person is a cop. Do not trust them.
This comes from someone who loves One Piece and had a great time reading, not watching, but reading the 900 plus chapters. If we were to say to you, person who doesn't know much about anime, if you were to come to us and be like, in this time where I have the time to watch anime and now the interest, what should I watch? For us to answer something like One Piece or Dragon Ball Z would be like if someone who has never drank alcohol before came up to you and was like, "Hey, I think I might like to, get into beer. What's like a tasty beer for a beginner?" And you were like, "What you want is to inject heroin into your eyes."
Yeah, it's a little too ride or die out of the gate. So we have collected a noble list of anime that is approachable, enjoyable, and most importantly, the seasons are like 12 episodes long.
26 at most.
Right. And when there is multiple seasons, they're self-contained, so you don't have to keep going out of some sense of duty.
Yeah, you don't have to be like Issa with Fairy Tail and just watch 100 episodes and then be like, wait a minute, what the fuck?
Right. So Tom and I are just going to switch off here. We each prepared some stuff. So Tom, why don't you take the first one?
All right, so we're not going to shy away from just saying the fucking crowd pleasers on this segment. We're going to say the anime that everyone knows are great, because guess what? They are. And they are good introductions to the genre for someone who's not used to it. So, first of all, I've got to talk about Cowboy Bebop. It is a very famous sci-fi sort of like noir western from the 90s about these fucking drifter bounty hunters in space who just have adventures and sort of are full of ennui, and there's a very good jazz soundtrack. And it fucking like whips. It's very stylish. The animation's great. There's a lot of dope fights, both physical and gun-wise, and then also space battles. It's also one of those incredible shows, and there are a lot of these across genres where like it's absolutely like an ironclad critical reputation. Everyone loves it. It's just on the top of every fucking list, and rightly so. But it's also one of those shows that has like 26 episodes and 14 of them suck.
Yeah, there's episodes where there's an episode where like a light bulb goes out in the ship, and then they spend 26 minutes digging through boxes trying to replace it.
And at the end, they're just like, damn, it's like we've been in darkness the whole time, hasn't it? Damn, it just goes to show you. And then like one of them is like, man, this reminds me of my bonsai tree. In a way, they're sort of similar. And then they just sort of like smoke and look at the stars for 10 minutes while dusky jazz plays.
Yeah, and even if you go online, people were like, yeah, that fucking, why was that there? That was not well paced.
The first episode is like the fucking characters are on like Mexico world. I think they might be in real Mexico. But like they're looking for someone and they don't really look very hard. And the lead guy sort of gets like involved with this like sexy, swarthy woman in a red dress, and they sort of like talk but not about anything, and it's very like slow and nothing happens, and they're not really looking for the guy they're looking for. And at the very end, it's like, oh, that guy they're looking for was that woman's boyfriend, and he's like, damn, your boyfriend? Well, guess that's it. And then the episode's over and like nothing fucking happened, and a lot of people bounce off that hard.
There's a fight. Someone shoots drugs into their eyes, and then they fight.
Yeah, and then they just forget about it. That said, Cowboy Bebop does fucking whip. If you like that, or if you want something a little more actiony, you might get more out of the same director's next series, Samurai Champloo, which is about two samurais, one of whom is like a crazy feral man who has a style of samuraiing that is based on breakdancing.
Yeah.
It kicks ass. The other one is just a very stoic, like, real samurai who, like, follows the Bushido code and doesn't like this boorish other guy.
Yeah, if you want a character who's always pushing up his glasses, that stoic guy is the creme de la creme.
I think at one point he even, like, mentions that, like, his glasses are decorative and, like, they were just a fancy purchase that he made because he thought they looked neat. But that fucking whips. It's good for the same reasons. Dope fights, dope characters, really great soundtrack. And again, there's a lot more, like, episodes where shit happens in Samurai Champloo. So yeah, if you like fucking samurai guys fighting, you'll like it.
Yeah, and instead of having the jazz theme running throughout, it's hip hop more.
Yes, it fucking whips. One of the best episodes is about the samurais find these two brothers who are graffiti artists who are feuding, and they have to get them to, like, use their artistic talents together to make the best graffiti of all, and their tagging becomes incredible.
Yes. One I want to recommend, and I've only seen season 1 of this, is Darker Than Black. Tom, you haven't seen Darker Than Black at all, right?
No, I don't even know what it is. This title means nothing to me.
Okay, so the premise of Darker Than Black is that at some point, for inexplicable reasons, there's a bunch of extra fucking stars in the sky, and these stars randomly give people powers. So
this whips.
Yeah, so out of the gate, you like what you're hearing. But the condition for using these powers is that you have to make a contract, and the contract is, like, non-negotiable. You don't get to pick how it works. It just happens. Like, when you get this power, you also have an accompanying contract. So what it means is you have a cool power, but then you have to do something very deeply unpleasant after you use it, or you can't use it until you do the thing. There's an opera singer, for instance, who, like, stops people's hearts with her, like, sonic powers, and then her contract she has to do is that she has to eat a bunch of cigarettes after.
Fuck.
There was one guy who had to...
Wait, okay.
Yeah.
Sorry. So it's not that, like, it's like a karmic justice thing or it's like an ironic twist. It's just like, then you gotta drink this gross drink I made.
Yeah. Like, you could argue there's, like, some theme with the singing and the cigarettes, but they're not always like that. Like, I think the first guy that they show that isn't the main character is that he can, like, kind of levitate, and the way his contract is he has to break one of his fingers to do it every time.
Fuck.
Yes. And then the main character is a guy with lightning powers, and the whole time it's not clear what his contract is, and that's, like, part of the sort of the appeal of the character. People joke that the main character is like electric Chinese Batman because he's like a Batman figure. He is a Chinese person living in Japan, and he has lightning powers, and he does, like, detective work and stuff like that.
This fucking kicks ass. It sounds a lot like Speedgrapher in that, like, there's weirdos with powers and one hard-boiled guy has to, like, fight them all.
Kinda, yeah. There's in the second season, my understanding is that there's a time skip, and then the main character doesn't have powers anymore. I don't know anything about that. All I know is that I think he's a drunk at that point. I don't really know how it all shakes out. So I can only speak for the first season. It's self-contained. You get some weird fights with goofy powers. You get to see a lady eat cigarettes. There's another guy, I don't remember what his contract was, but anything his blood touches can explode.
Hell yeah.
So there's, like, a fight where he, like, cuts his wrists kind of and just sprays his blood everywhere, and then people just start fucking blowing up.
This whips. Joe, I'm interested in Darker Than Black. It sounds good.
Yeah, I don't even remember the main plot, like what the organization that the main character is working for, like, strives for. I only remember specific fights and the sort of feel of it, but I think it's worth watching.
All right, so moving on, my next suggestion is going to be, again, not obscure. You've probably heard of it, but, like, you've heard of it because it deserves to be on this list. I'm talking about One Punch Man. Obviously, a dope fucking anime, a big worldwide hit. If you're not aware, One Punch Man takes place in a world where superheroes are like fucking everywhere, and it's like a job that you can have, and you have like a ranking based on how powerful you are. And if you have a low rank, you just sort of like are basically like a traffic cop, like a mall cop.
Yeah.
And if you're a high rank, you're like a god who saves the world from monsters. There's constantly monsters. It's just like there's nonsense superhero situations happening every single day. And our hero, Saitama, is the titular One Punch Man, in that he just decided one day that it was boring to not be a superhero, so he decided he would become a superhero. And he just randomly became the strongest being ever, such that he can defeat any enemy in one punch, and he finds it quite boring and unsatisfying. And it fucking whips. Like, it is just a straight-up comedy. There's all there is to it. It is just for the laughs, and it is so fucking funny. Like, a lot of Japanese comedy is based on, like, wordplay that you can't understand, or it's, like, two live-action guys, one of whom's in a suit, and the other one is, like, dressed up like a diaper baby, and, like, they have girls laugh at the diaper guy, and like, that's comedy.
Yeah, they throw a washing bin at him.
Yeah, no, that's not what's happening here. This is like universal fucking classic slapstick, hilarious. They do the same formula a lot for a lot of arcs, and it always works, where there's a new villain who's so scary and so awful, and the other heroes try to stop him, and they can't do it, and then the stronger hero has to show up, and they just can't do it, and every new villain this period stretches out longer and longer to really set up how strong and scary the bad guy is, and then Saitama shows up and punches it and kills it in one hit. And, like, where does the conflict come in, you might wonder? Saitama's a dumbass and is often lost.
Yeah, that's sort of the secret sauce, I think, to the whole show, which is this hero association has all these ranks and rules, and Saitama is, like, B rank.
Oh, yeah. He, like, aced the physical exam, but he's a dumbass and, like, wrote like his name only on the written test and like didn't fill it out and failed. So he's like a C rank hero. So everyone who sort of is in power and who's in charge of delegating tasks thinks that Saitama sucks ass, but he's like the only one who can win.
Yeah, and the people in the highest rank, the S rank heroes, they are objectively powerful and cool, and they would probably be awesome characters if they had their own shows. But it's just really funny because, again, Saitama is the most powerful. He's wearing an ill-fitting jumper. He doesn't have enough detail in his body. Like, he's like drawn extra simply. He has no hair. That's like a joke where it's when he became super powerful, he just lost his hair.
Yeah, so now his head is just an oval with like two eyes and a mouth and a little dot for his nose, and that's it. Everyone else is super designed like a badass anime hero, and he just looks like sort of a nubbin. It's great. It's great. Anyway, similar to that, I won't get into this too much because we did an entire guest episode on A+ Anime. You should check that episode out, where we talked about how fucking good this show is. But Mob Psycho 100, it's based on a manga written by the same guy who did the One Punch Man manga. So it is in the same sort of vein, where it is about a kid who's the most powerful psychic, but he's also like a little kid who doesn't actually want to use his psychic powers to hurt anybody. And it is, in the same way as One Punch Man, very funny, but it is a lot more sort of like nuanced and character-driven and subtle. So you might want to go for that if you don't want just a broad comedy. One Punch Man, it really is the fucking crowd pleaser, though, and both of them have incredible animation.
Yeah, great fights. I would say the distinction with Mob Psycho 100, as you had said, it's funny, but whereas One Punch Man is like 100% comedy, Mob Psycho 100 is like, feelings are important, like, care about people in a very real, not hacky way. So this is one that when I got one of those original DMs and I suggested to someone, Gurren Lagann. So even if you don't like mechs, if you don't like huge robots, this is pretty much a perfect anime because it's about how if you have bros and you believe in your bros, you can do anything.
I think the moment that like really hooked the series for me, because I was sort of iffy on it until this moment, is the first mech that our characters find is like this tiny little head with like nubbins for arms and legs. It's basically just a huge head, and it's only a little bit bigger than like a human person.
Yeah, it's like the size of an outhouse.
Yeah, and at one point they're fighting another mech, And through whatever contrivance, this mech gets like shoved on top of that mech, and sort of like digs into it like it's that mech's head. And one of the two bros gets into the other one. It's like, all right, dope. Now we can definitely like pilot this huge one. And the other main character is like, what are you talking about? There's no way that these mechs are compatible. They're not connected. You don't know how to pilot it. This isn't going to work. And he's like, no, I really think it will. And that belief is what makes it work.
The show has a lot of really good shots of control panels with like bars that are at 0%, and then like bro energy happens, and then the bars go to 100%.
It's incredible. It's so fun. It was produced by Gainax, an animation studio that would later have all of its, well, most of its key personnel split off to make a new studio called Studio Trigger, who made Promare, which we talked about. And it has a lot of their fucking hallmarks, which is very sort of kinetic and stylized animation, and just a huge emphasis on how when you're a bro and you really love your homie, like that's stronger than volcanoes.
Yes.
It also has the Studio Trigger thing where the stakes, like every 5 episodes, the stakes just exponentially increase. And everything that we were looking at before is baby shit compared to what's happening now.
It is not a huge spoiler to say this. It sounds like it is, but I can assure you, listener, that this doesn't fucking matter. There's a time skip, and when they come back, the gist of it is like, so we solved all of the world's problems. We live in a utopia now. Everything kicks ass, which is one of like the boldest choices you can make halfway through a show.
Now, one thing I do want to warn you about with Gurren Lagann, and this is something that I never really got over, like it sucks, and there's no way to justify it, is that sort of the main girl character, the only really woman in the main cast, constantly wears a too small bikini that the bottoms of her titties spill out of, and they are brimming and jiggly titties that are jiggling constantly. And if you're wondering if she like falls and like lands on her boobies smushed up on someone's head and acts like it's normal and doesn't understand why they're getting all hot and bothered, that happens fucking constantly. If you're wondering, are there shots where it's like dialogue shots where usually it would be like a person's head and then it would switch back to the other person's head when they talk,
and it's just her ass or her cleavage?
Yeah, that happens constantly. During that time skip, everyone is in Utopia kicking ass, but they're all like, where's Yoko? Where's Yoko? And then when she finally makes her big reappearance, her like hero shot to announce that she's back, baby, is just a close-up of her jiggling titties. It's terrible, and I hate it.
Yes.
There's nothing good about it.
She's also a sniper, so if you can imagine that the recoil from a large rifle would produce criminal kinetic animation, you are correct.
But still, it's very fucking good. And while we're on the Studio Trigger tip, I must also use this time to recommend their other 2 big famous series, Kill la Kill and Little Witch Academia. Kill la Kill is a lot more jiggling titty focused than Gurren Lagann, but I would argue that it's less of an issue because it's like part of the plot. It's about a girl who shows up to this evil high school where these crazy living uniforms give the kids power, and it makes them like superheroes who are rather super villains who are enforcing an iron rule over the school. And she has a magical sailor outfit that turns into a battle armor, but it shows her titties off. And then like it turns out that like clothing itself isn't a real thing in this world. It is an alien parasite. So like becoming nude is actually the most powerful thing you can do. It's very silly. It is a big time fucking laugh comedy meant to be a joke.
Yeah, they are fully aware of what they're doing, although I am still amazed that you can have such contempt for the Yoko character, who, to be clear, is over the top, and then just kind of give Kill la Kill a large pass, even if it is doing it knowingly.
So I think the difference is in Gurren Lagann, no one ever says to Yoko, like, hey, you're dressed strangely. Like, this is not normal clothing. This is weird. Everyone just takes it as it is. She never really explains why she's wearing that clothing. Like, it's silly that she would be wearing that clothing. Nothing in her character would explain why she decides to wear a too small bra constantly.
They don't even do a fake reason like in Metal Gear Solid, where it's like, well, Silent has to be almost nude because she breathes through her skin.
The thing is, in Kill la Kill, when they put on the titty outfits, everyone's just like, holy shit, what the fuck?
Yeah, everyone agrees that this is not normal.
Yeah, they're like, what are you wearing? That's crazy. We can see your titties. What's wrong with you?
Yeah.
And, like, lampshading it, like, you can make the argument, like, well, that's not enough. It's still exploitative. Yeah, you can. And people have made that argument, and I'm like, you're right. You don't have to like it. It's a little weird. But again, it's the same sort of thing where it's great animation, great characters, great comedy, and again, the stakes just dramatically increase multiple times until at the end, we're just in a completely different universe than we thought we were at the beginning of the series. It fucking whips. Same thing about Little Witch Academia, except it's about little witches who keep their titties covered constantly because they're children. There's no fan service. It just fucking whips. It's a very heartwarming story about a witch school and a little witch who learns to love herself and come into her own. It's great, and again, just absolutely kicks ass. Of the three, I think that's the one I would recommend most.
There's an episode, right, where she like unionizes people or something?
I think so. I think you're thinking of the one where they find a dragon and you think they're going to fight the dragon, but really it's just that like the dragon let the school have a big loan like 1,000 years ago, and the interest has gotten too high, and now the school is in like danger of bankruptcy, and she has to like teach the dragon that like usury is mean, and you just let us have the school.
That's good. That's a very wholesome anti-capitalist theme. It's just like, hey,
fucking whips.
What you're doing is bad, and I assume he's convinced.
Yes. At first he's not, but yes, eventually he comes around to it. Akko is just simply too much of a force of nature to resist. It fucking whips. Joe, what's the next one?
So I recently watched Death Note for the first time, which is kind of surprising because it's kind of like Cowboy Bebop level in terms of the thing everybody knows, right?
Mm-hmm.
It's 37 episodes long, which is definitely on the longer side for our purposes here, but I'm going to include it because it's a really compelling sort of detective narrative where the main character is the most unlikable fucking dweeb, and it rules to see him like fuck up his plans and barely get away for 37 episodes.
Yeah, the premise, if you aren't aware, is there are death gods who live in the death realm, and each of them have a notebook that if you write a person's name in it, they die. And he gives it to this kid, Light Yagami, who is a fascist asshole. So the death god is like, hey, buddy, if you write someone's name in this and you know what their face looks like and you're thinking of their face when you write it, they die. You can also specify how they die. I'm going to just let you fucking go buck wild. I'm just going to watch. Have at it.
Because the main character, Light, is a grade-grubbing student government asshole, he believes that with this he'll be able to generate a new world free of sin by punishing all the people who deserve it.
So the reason I fucking love this show so much is, one, all of the crazy plans that get pulled off with that pretty small playbook of the rules of the Death Note. Like, the rules of the Death Note are pretty simple. Like, there are some weird exceptions, but mostly it's pretty cut and dry from what you see at the beginning. And they can pull off some insane plans with just that. But also what I love is the antagonist, who's actually the good guy, the detective L, who is just this weirdo who shows up and has like perfectly round eyes where the whites go all the way around the pupil. And the thing that Light does that fucking whips is that he literally instantly figures out that Light is the guy with the Death Note. Like, he knows right away. And the entire sort of investigation is him trying to find a way to prove that this guy has some sort of magical murder power. Because he knows it, but he can't prove it. And it fucking whips. And the thing that he does that I love is that he's like, I'm just going to tell Light my plan.
Yeah. He just tells it because he's so confident. L is a character who I think grows up in this orphanage for special boys with bad posture.
It's true.
He's always slouching and eating sweets. And then later there are other characters from that orphanage, and one of them also has horrible posture and sits on the floor.
Another one only like lounges in huge armchairs and eats chocolate.
Yeah, the characters are goofy. It's good. By far, the best part of it for me is that, so the death god that Tom had mentioned that has this Death Note, the reason he gave Light the Death Note was not because of like some cosmic justice or anything. Legit, he was just bored.
It's crazy. And he like doesn't give a shit about Light at all.
Yes, Light will be like, hey, do you think we should do this? Or like, would this be helpful? And he's always like, I'm never going to help you. I'm just here to vibe.
At one point in the manga, I don't know if this is in the anime, but like Light's really nervous about like some jam he's in, like he's close to being found out, and the Death God is like, "Hey Light, let's play Mario Golf." And Light's like, "I can't do that right now. I have to think about this." And then a couple panels go by, and he's like, "Light, I want to play Mario Golf."
Yeah, in the anime, it's just generically video games, which
that's way less funny.
it's way less funny. And the one thing that I think is really a testament to how good the show is, it's like the show is mostly people sitting at desks explaining what they're doing. But it's still very compelling and not boring.
The one sort of strike against it that I have, and this is also true in the team that wrote and drew Death Note, their other manga, Bakuman, has this problem like way more, which is that these guys are like huge misogynists. Like they hate women so much and think they're stupid. This isn't really a problem in Death Note because there really aren't any women characters, which is a problem in itself. But the one woman, Misa, is a fucking annoying dumbass who is so poorly served by the writing, and like she is just an awful character. And it really sucks that in this whole big cast of genius characters, the only woman is a stupid, easily manipulated person who just is sort of evil, but also suffers more than she deserves to. It sucks. What can you do?
Yeah, the one like narrative point of that is it does highlight that Light is like a manipulative asshole who doesn't value other people.
Yeah, that's true. But still, it would have been cool if like anyone was a woman in the story. What can you do? Well, you can complain about it. That's what we're doing. All right, next up on the list. This one is sort of just a dumb lark. I really liked it. It is a classic, but you do have to come into it knowing that this is just like pure silly shit, which is Ouran High School Host Club, which is about this girl who is at Ouran High School, which is a high school for the richest kids in Japan. She got in on like some scholarship. She's like the one commoner they allow in. And she's just wandering around this school, which like you never actually see anyone go to class. I don't think anyone does go to class. It's one of those series where the status quo is very malleable and like things can just be different in one episode and like accept it, just take it. And she breaks a vase that belongs to the host club. And in order to pay back the debt, she has to work as a host in the host club. What's the host club? It's a fucking club where a bunch of beautiful boys dress up in suits and entertain ladies with their gentlemanly charm. So the girl, our main character, has to dress up like a boy and become a charming gigolo, but chastely. And just every episode, they just get into the dumbest shit because every single member of the host club is a fucking moron.
So in Yakuza 0, the second main character you play as, Majima, like he runs a hostess club, and that's like the reason he's forever indebted to the mob is because he has to forever do this to pay off a debt. And that's also one of the, I didn't know that was like a real thing in Japan. Like that's like a real business where you pay pretty people to just pretend they're your homies.
Yes, yeah. I mean, this isn't even a business. This is a high school club.
Yeah. I'm just saying like it is a business model being recreated as a fun club for after school teens.
It fucking whips. There's like the president of the club who's the most beautiful man of all time, but he's also terminally stupid and like can't count, and he's in love with the main character, but like he doesn't want to show it, which means that he's showing it constantly. There are these two identical twins whose sort of hook as a host is that like are they fucking each other, and like all the girls love it when they like almost kiss, and they know what they're doing and are so fucking pleased with themselves for almost doing twincest. There's one kid whose nickname is Honey Senpai, who looks
Jesus
like a
Christ.
baby.
Jesus.
Like he looks like he's, if you drew a 3-year-old in anime, you would draw him, and he's just like, oh, I haven't hit my growth spurt yet. I'm 15, but like I'm gonna have my passy and my little my little teddy bear, and it's gonna make all the girls think I'm so kawaii. And like it's revealed like halfway through that he's also like the greatest karate champion in like Japanese history, and anytime someone tries to hurt him, he can just fucking demolish them. But he's a little baby, and he's best friends with the stoic guy who's just like very tall and huge and has a stern face and never says anything.
So this is kind of slice of life, right? Like just kind of a dumb premise for slice of life, right?
Exactly. It's a slice of life, but like it's not a life that exists anywhere. It's extremely absurdly rich people getting into scenarios that couldn't possibly happen. And their dumbassness makes it even goofier than ever. I love it.
So in general, I'm anti-slice of life, not because I don't think they're good, but someone's got to punch somebody, man. Someone needs to have a transformation. The exception to this, though, Tom and I are both in love with a slice of life show right now, which is Keep Your Hands Off Isaacan.
It fucking rules. I think this is the real answer to if you are new to anime, where do you start? Because one, this anime fucking whips. It is just so well designed and produced and animated and directed. Just like it's gorgeous to look at.
I am going to just not remember the names because I'll get the Japanese names wrong. So the gist of it is there is the main character who is a little gremlin. It's a girl. She's like drawn to be like 4 feet tall. And basically her whole jam is that she wants to be a famous anime illustrator. And the whole show is them starting an after-school club to do just that.
Yeah, it is legitimately an anime about the production of anime. And in addition to it just being excellent, that's another great reason to start with it, because it makes you appreciate anime as a form. Because, like, the whole plot is just about how fucking hard it is to make a good anime. The other two characters is the gremlin's best friend, Kanamori, is like 8 feet tall, and she has glasses that she never wears. They're always up on her forehead, and she's constantly grimacing. She is not creative at all. She does not respect anime. She respects money and practicality. And her sort of role is she's the only one that actually makes the anime get produced, because the gremlin is just constantly the idea guy, and she would never actually produce anything. She needs Kanamori like yelling at her, threatening her physical violence unless she gets like 10 minutes of footage done by the end of the week. And then the third main character is this like idol that they meet, who's like a model, but she secretly wants to be an animator. So like the gremlin is the director, and then she is like the key animator. And they get together and they make a fucking anime club, and they make anime.
Yeah, and the gist of the show is that the tall one yells at them for not being productive.
I fucking love it because, like, the tall one yelling at them for not being productive in a worse show would be the villain. But, like, she is as critical and valued a part of the process as either of them, like, the creative geniuses are. And I really fucking respect that, because as someone who has had to display Kanamori-like tendencies in my podcast production in the past, you really need to fucking do that sometimes.
Yeah, it's good. I'm not caught up completely, but it's definitely one of the best things that has come out in a long time.
The thing that it does a lot that I absolutely love is just like when it shows the creative process in real time. Like when they are thinking about like, well, what's the pitch for our next short? And they sort of think about like, well, what's cool? And as they're thinking about it, it's getting drawn in the world with them in sort of like a sketchy, like rough draft style. And every time they think of like, oh no, not this is something better, it just changes into that thing. And like we get to see the short that they're imagining happen to them as they're thinking through it. And just seeing the creative process on screen like that is so fucking good. I love it.
The part I really enjoyed is early on they have to do a presentation to get funding as an after-school club, and like part of the challenge is them trying to come up with a short they can finish in time and cut corners in a way that allows them to make it in time and go under budget but still have something worth watching. And it's just like basically laying out all the things studios do on a much bigger scale to save money and save time, like how to do panning shots across backgrounds and all this sort of thing. Stuff that obviously I've seen, I just never occurred to me to see these things with a price tag attached to them.
Yeah, like there's one point when Kanamori is like, hey, I found out about this program that you can use on the PC Club's computer that will help you animate these scenes like automatically. And the main animator is like, how dare you say that? The whole point of animating is to put personality into each frame. It's like I'm an actor in a way because I decide how the characters move and what that means for them. And she's just like, hey, how many fucking drawings do you have to do? You can't do that many before our due date. Use the fucking program. And she does. And she's like, oh, I guess it's okay.
Yeah, and this is a theme we've talked about on the show before. And just like how the real Japanese animation industry is soul crushing, they chain you to a desk to make ninjas that you draw. This was a very real depiction of that, where it's just like, well, there's just not enough time in a day to do what you want, so we're cutting corners.
Yep. Also, it's a fucking show with 3 main characters who are all girls, and there's literally zero horniness. At one point, they all go to a bathhouse and take baths together, and that's not horny.
Yeah, it's crime-free.
It's incredible. I mean, like, if anything is going to make you appreciate anime, it's Keep Your Hands Off Eizouken, which I don't know why it's called that. I think Eizouken is like club in Japan, like keep your hands off our club, but they don't translate that word. So they keep saying like, oh, the Eizouken's in trouble. And I'm like, what the huh?
This is why we're like the dumbest guys to listen about anime takes, is because people who are really into this will take this as an opportunity to learn and understand context. And we're just like, wow, I'm just not going to learn that fucking word.
Yeah, no, not at all. So we've mentioned a lot of sort of like light, fun stuff. If you want something that's really fucking dark and complex and psychological, I gotta recommend Paranoia Agent, which is the only TV anime series that was produced by the late animation director Satoshi Kon.
So I don't know anything about this. In fact, when you mentioned it, I confused it with the PlayStation game Parasite Eve. So
No.
What's going on?
Okay, so Satoshi Kon is a fucking incredible, like, one of the best animation directors ever. His movies, like Paprika and Perfect Blue and Millennium Actress and Tokyo Godfathers, are all absolute goddamn classics. Black Swan is just Perfect Blue. Darren Aronofsky had to buy the rights to Perfect Blue to make Black Swan, and it's a worse version of Black Swan. Inception is just Paprika, and it's a worse version of Paprika.
I'm just learning this now. This is news to me.
Yeah, it's dude, watch these goddamn movies. They're excellent. Anyway, Paranoia Agent is sort of like an anthology series, but it's also all connected. Like, all these characters are in the same world, and eventually they do all come together. But it's about all these different characters who are all sort of connected by the theme of they have some deep worry, something that's eating them up inside, a paranoia, you might even say.
Oh, this is very relatable. This is good.
All of them are visited by this shadowy boy on roller skates with a bent golden metal bat who is called Shonen Bato, which is translated as Little Slugger, but I call him Shonen Bat. Anyway, they're all just in these horrible scenarios where they just like they're trapped and they can't get out, and all of them are being assaulted by this mysterious kid who leaves them like near death in a hospital, just beaten to, almost to death. And as it goes on, like the toll that this bat boy is taking gets to be more than like an actual person with a bat could actually do. And just like the dread and weird surreal energy just builds and builds, and you don't know what's going on. And like the opening is this weird surreal sort of like vision where there's this really upbeat music, and it's just scenes of like Tokyo all bright and happy, and it's all of the characters that we've seen who are like miserable and in like the lowest parts of their lives, all just laughing hysterically at the camera. And eventually like they're just like falling upside down, like straight to the ground, laughing, and you're like, what the fuck is this? And I said it's an anthology because like the episodes are pretty self-contained more or less, but then when it all comes together in the end, you see that it was like this was very tightly planned. I think it's a 12 episode series. It was very tightly planned, and all the mysteries pay off, and it fucking whips. It's like really good. It's like a great show.
Any other quick hits you want to just rattle off?
Yes, I will. I'll do these very quick. We have talked about JoJo's Bizarre Adventure a lot. That is kind of a show for newbies because each part is sort of short and self-contained and doesn't really relate that much to the others, and there are a lot of dope fights, but it's also very fucking like weird and convoluted and has plot holes that don't make sense and a lot of weird anime fight conventions that like are goofy. And if you think it's weird, you won't like it. And if you don't like fights, you won't like it. But if you do and you like shit that's goofy, you'll love it.
Yeah, and the first season of JoJo's is basically a PowerPoint with big buff boys. Not a ton of animation. It's just a bunch of guys growling and doing breathing kung fu over the course of one night. It's very good.
It's very good, but it's also like very bad. It objectively is paced terribly and almost nothing happens, but still.
Yeah.
Another one is Mushishi. We talked about this briefly on A+ Anime episode, but it's a fucking show that's very, again, episodic, where each episode is completely self-contained, and it's about this guy who just can see these spirits that other people can't see, and he walks around and finds someone who is being vexed by a spirit, and the spirits aren't like evil, so it's not like he has to kill them. It's really more that the spirit has attached themselves to a person because the person has an emotional problem, and he has to be like a therapist and help them solve it. One that I'm going to get into in more detail later, but that is just an anime that fucking owns, is Haikyuu, which is about boys volleyball in high school in Japan.
You just don't shut the fuck up about the boys playing volleyball like all day with you.
It's so fucking good. It's incredible. I love it. It's to me, like, the secret sauce is that they do not pretend that volleyball is more important than it is. Everyone knows how low the stakes are. At one point, like, the main character meets his idol, like the volleyball player who inspired him to become the best. And he's like, oh my God, it's you. I can't believe I really meet you. What team do you play for? And he's like, oh, I stopped playing volleyball after high school because I needed to get a job. What did you think I did? But at the same fucking time, reading it and watching it, you know that volleyball is the most important thing in the world. It fucking whips. All the characters rule, and the anime is so well produced. It's just gorgeous to watch.
The stakes are, and you've said this to me, and it made me lose my shit. The best thing that can happen is that they get a pennant for their school gym.
Yep. But at the same time, the best thing that can happen is that my best friends, who I love, self-actualize. That's the best part.
Right.
There's one part where one of the guys blocks the opponent's ace once. And like that point that he scored, that one point that he scored is like as triumphant as Goku killing Frieza.
Wow.
Yeah, it just hits so goddamn hard. But, Joe, quick hits over. There is one real answer to this question, isn't there?
For sure. One show that Tom and I keep coming back to, we actually stream it before we do our Wednesday movie nights, King of the Hill.
Yeah.
It's a good anime.
As far as anime goes, you can't do better. We got lots and lots of episodes to work through, but it's also self-contained, so you can start anywhere. You're not going to get confused about the plot.
And the worst King of the Hill episode is still a solid B.
It really fucking, like, it's so good. I slept on it as a kid because I didn't like how it looked. But it's also the fucking best. It also doesn't have, like, the kind of goofy, super silly humor that, like, The Simpsons has. It's a lot more grounded.
Yes. It's very understated, and I think that's why I didn't appreciate it when it first came on as a kid, because I thought it was boring. I didn't realize that Hank Hill is, like, objectively one of the funniest characters in fiction.
He's so goddamn good. Really, I mean, like, anime, I love it as a medium, but it really hit its peak with King of the Hill.
Mike Judge is my favorite mangakata.
Yes. He really pushed the medium forward. God. Anyway, thank you for listening. We hope you don't watch any anime, but if you do, any of the previously mentioned series will be a pretty good place to begin. I've been Tom, an anime sicko.
I'm Joe, an anime sicko. You can find me on Twitter at ShriUncle. Continue to DM me the fact that you've been tempted by the demon cartoons, and I will try to talk you down. And I have been unsuccessful mostly, but I still...
You gotta hold that hope.
I like the opportunity to try to save someone.
You can find me on Twitter at TomHarrison19. Please continue to not DM me and DM Joe only so that I feel like the least loved of the sickos.
I'm the likable one. I'm the approachable one.
I mean, I'd argue if I could. But anyway, thanks for listening. Bye.
See ya.
Thank you for listening to Anime Sickos. I've been Tom, a sicko. You can follow me on Twitter at TomHarrison19. Joe is also a sicko. You can follow him on Twitter at ShariaUncle. You can follow Anime Sickos on Twitter at Anime Sickos, or email us at animesickos@gmail.com. Please leave us a review or something. I don't know. Tell a friend. Anyway, until next time, bye.